of Mr. Matthew, you know. Yep. Yeah, I could go two ways, by the way, but you know, we said, yeah, why not do it an hour later? Why not? You know, it's England against Germany. I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
that's almost as exciting as the Netherlands against Germany, but that would never happen, at least not in in this uh, this round. Unfortunately, not in this round. So, hence, I thought, you know, why not? You know, why not? You know, why not be a little bit crazy this time? All right, so I'm going live on Facebook. So hold your breath. Yeah, meeting is now streaming on Facebook. Well, welcome all your people here on Facebook. You know, if you are all soccer lovers, then England just won from Germany, which is mostly fine for most people in the world, except for the Germans, of course, for my German friends, right? And sorry, guys, you know, so we actually debunked one saying of Mr. Johan Cruyff. If you know something about soccer, you know who Johan Cruyff is. And he always said soccer is a game where 22 players play for 90 minutes and in the end, Germans win. But it's not true anymore. It is not true anymore. So congratulations, of course, to all my friends in the UK or in England specific, right? UK is not necessarily England, but in England in specific, we have a friend Matthew online. Today, we're going to talk about something completely different than soccer. But if you have any soccer questions, you can ask me. After all, I'm Dutch, and everyone assumes that if you're Dutch, you know a lot about soccer and about ice skating. So once I was on a cruise with Irene, and Irene asked when there was an ice skating ring on the cruise. Can you believe it? On one of those big ships, and they have an ice skating ring. And she asked me, do you know how to ice skate? I said, not really, and but I can go on the ice and I can skate. And I was skating, and she said, "Oh, you totally can ice skate." I said, "Well, yeah, compared to you guys, because you are, you are even, worse than me." It's everything is relative, guys. That's just what I want to say. In my own country, the Netherlands, I am a very poor ice skater. I have some rather traumatic experiences about ice skating. Has nothing to do with our topic of today, which I say to you, welcome, or maybe it does. So I'm going to tell you the story anyhow. It is about 40 degrees centigrade outside here in Dallas, so that's super cold. So we're not thinking about ice skating. But once, I think it was my 12th birthday or something, and I think that's when why I stopped celebrating my own birthday. And, my parents decided to give me a new tracksuit. I played soccer at that time and I wanted to have a new tracksuit. And it was great, but it was like Smurf blue, which was at that time maybe not the most hip color for a boy of 12. And it was like 4 sizes too big, right? That's what we did in big families. You either got a hand-me-down from your brothers or sisters, or or they bought it like a few sizes too big so that you can do it. So there was I was. Can you imagine this? This Asian face with this blue tracksuit on, brand new, and so that was that. And then we always, it was kind of strange because we were not that rich, but I asked my parents, can we please go do something fun with my best friends? And they said, what do you want to do? Oh, I would love to go to an ice skating ring. And then, we could go ice skating there. That would be just fun, right? And we had that in Den Bosch. We had, there was a pretty good ice hockey team. And then the weekend when they were not practicing, you could just go in there and just have some fun on the ice. So I went there and I was already looking forward so that I could, maybe rent one of those fancy ice skating skates, right? But no, my parents said, no, let's save some money. You can easily put on the ice skates of your sister. and those were those white, I would say, I don't know what the what the English term is, but kunstijsschaatsen. And so that's what those ice dancers do. And they wear white, which is typically not a guy's thing, it should have been black. So there I was with my blue tracksuit and white skates, and I couldn't skate. So I could not be more terrible looking than that, and it was horrible. And I invited my best friends. One was name is Robert, the other one was Bas, and there was one, I think it was Leo, one other guy. But Bas I still have contact with after all these years. Robert, I don't know. He became a psychologist, I believe, but I don't know where he is. But they could all reasonably well ice skate. They could go back and they could make pirouettes. I was already happy if I didn't fall. And so there I was super miserable. I had to stay there for an hour because my dad would pick us up after an hour. And has nothing to do, guys, with what I'm going to talk about, or maybe just a little about the topic of today. But that was my story about ice skating. Yeah. Actually, I also don't know why we came to that topic. So if someone can remind me how we came to that topic. Oh, yeah, I know why we came to that topic. Today, I want to talk about the evolution of man and the survival of the fittest, and why that is actually a concept that I totally disagree with. Yeah. Well, if you think about evolution, don't immediately hang up. But if you think about evolution theory, a lot of people immediately think about, how, we were, first apes, or maybe we were first fish, and the fish became lizards, and the lizards became mammals, and out of these mammals there became some sort of an ape and a primate, and then after these primate became apes, and so on and so on and so on. And then the humans were born, right? So we were looking for these things. We have never actually really found any good proof that that is a good theory, but anyhow, that's a quite, known theory. And a lot of people believe in that theory, and there's nothing wrong with that. And but specifically, some religious people, Christians, for instance, they definitely don't believe that, right? They believe that we are created by a super being called God, and maybe that's true too. Who knows? That's also not proven. So both theories are not really proven, and some people say, hey, some wars are fought over this because there are people who just believe something else, and I am always okay with whatever you believe as long as you don't hurt any other people. But together with that theory came something else, and so this is of course Darwin's theory, and together with that came the saying, the survival of the fittest. Now, Darwin never said that, by the way. So let me be, historically and scientifically correct. A lot of people think that Darwin said that. Darwin never said survival of the fittest, or if he said it, then he actually said it after someone else, right? He was not the man who came with that saying. Doesn't really matter because he suggested that species who were stronger than another species would survive, have more chances to survive. Now, that might be all well and true, and it probably is true, right? But I don't think if you are born with a little bit more brains than your limbic system, which is, the brain of a lizard, right? That's called your limbic system. I did once a little lecture on that, and then over that becomes, grow your other brains, and mammals have that. And if you're a human being, you actually have a lot more brains, which is more your awareness and your logic thinking is in that part of your brain. So we can say, okay, we were born like that, but we should not adapt that anymore, right? Survival of the fittest. Now, a lot of people say, hey, I don't believe anymore in that theory of Darwin because of a religious reason. Other people say, survival of the fittest is maybe not the right thing to do from a social point of view. But if you look around you, you actually will see that most people still behave like survival of the fittest. We just came out of a soccer game, England against England against Germany, and the fittest, not always true, but anyhow, the best one won. So they're eating alive. They kicked them out of the tournament. And if it's a game, it's kind of funny, right? And I told you my story about about skating, right? So most guys at that age, they laugh about the boy who cannot skate and looks like a Smurf with white skates on. There's actually no one who said, let me help you and teach how to skate. It's actually at that time in that age, it's not there. It's just about who is the better skater, and they get a little bit more attention like that. And I don't want to make a sad story about myself. I became pretty okay, actually. But or men had lycra shorts, yeah, same thing, right? When they go on a bicycle. Um, Anyhow, so we do that. We do that way, way, way more than you think. We actually, like we do now on Zoom here, it's all good. We make a little bit fun of it. We make a little bit fun of the people who are not so fit according to the standards that we have today. Just I want you to be. It's a pretty serious topic if you think about it. I want you to be all a little bit stop and think for a moment how much we still apply the basic theory of the survival of the fittest. How much and where do we apply it? And be honest, where don't we apply it? There's almost no area in society where we don't measure things about good, better, best, more beautiful, most beautiful, the most beautiful, all these kind of things. We start with kids sending them to school. Actually, I start to almost believe that we shouldn't send kids to school anymore because we teach them all these things that actually is only worthwhile if you score the highest score. And we believe most of this, even if you think you don't, you have to really do some soul searching. We believe that we only can survive and have a better place in society if we are really good or at least better than another one in a certain area, whether it's dance, whether it's cycling, whether it's, not all. I'm not saying that everyone is like that, but I am almost certain that at least one of the areas that you're active in, you kind of succumb to that behavior. Whether you work in a corporate organization, which I don't have to explain you if you're in corporate, that it is very true. You know, some people, they are in healthcare. It's not true in healthcare. It's absolutely true in healthcare. It's the better doctors who make the better salaries. It's always the better ones, right? If you do any type of sports nowadays, right, and if you do it to a certain level, we do it in a competitive form, right? There's almost nothing that we don't apply the belief of survival of the fittest. Now, whether you believe in Darwin theory or not, but Darwin had more influence actually than he actually hoped for, because I, have been talking a lot about Darwin theory and that there are a lot of flaws in there. And even Darwin, probably, if you could sit next to me, would admit, because at the time that he did his research, that was pretty cool research that he did. And it was really a good theory, maybe to follow, whether you're religious or not. At least you should always try to follow someone theories without immediately disputing it, if because you have some sort of other belief. Remember, about 3-4 weeks ago, I talked to you all about how hard it is to put your personal beliefs aside and listen to someone with an open ear and an open mind to see what that person means, right? And whether that's, I'm a Christian, so if I would not think for myself, I would immediately say, "Ooh, evolution theory, that's a big no-no." Why? I don't know, because the Bible says it. That's not a way of thinking. After all the studies I did, I still don't think that Darwin was on the right track, but he definitely made a few good points. One of the things that he did, and this is a few hundred years ago already, right? If you think about it, Darwin also said that is in humans' nature. Well, I think what he meant at that time, that is humans' behavior at that time to act and behave as survival of the fittest. Now we are about 150 years later, so I think we should behave slightly different. We need to change our mind, to change the world and get out of that primitive thinking that it is always about survival of the fittest. Now, some people here in the place actually already start to behave like that. If you make service to other people the center of your acting and your behavior, you actually go beyond that, right? If you just look at what is that guy with that nice voice that's always doing these nice nature movies? He talks like this, and the lion comes, and he starts to, he had this nice voice, like Richard Attenborough, right? He had this nice, he made all this, these commentaries on these nice movies, and you see this, this I don't know, you see maybe this pack of wilder beasts, and they get hunted by lions, and I don't know if they live in the same area, don't forgive me for that, but you see the lion always eat up the sick animal or the young animal. We don't want that in our society, right? Because that's a normal behavior. That would be exactly what survival of the fittest means. The sick and the old one get purged. Well, I'm not only saying it because I'm getting old, by the way, and that I'm afraid that I get purged, right? Because, well, maybe a little bit too, maybe a little bit too. But be honest, like when we were young, we didn't think so much about these things because it was a little bit survival of the fittest. And trust me, I have a very competitive heart. I like a good competition as a game. But if you start to hurt people, says he who did martial arts and put people down for fun, but trust me, most of the opponents that I fought became one of my closest friends because we did it for sports, right? We didn't do it for anything else. And it's maybe still a good, but if you think about what kind of mentality we are, we are, how do you say that, breeding or incubating from a very young age on. And I've been on that train and bandwagon for a very long time myself, maybe even just a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I was still on that same train. You have to be successful, you have to be good at what you do. What if you're not so good? What if there are things in your life that don't go so well? Does that mean that you're a lesser person than the other person? It's not. We put our weak person in special homes and we put them in a different part of society so that we don't see them. And we still think that we don't do survival of this. Not everyone, by the way, but we still think we don't do survival of the fittest, right? But we do. I think you find it in most societies. And then if you think about last week when I did the me consciousness, the we consciousness, and the earth consciousness again, we also do it as a we. We rally up as nations. And if our nations is too small, then we make some alliance like NATO or something, right? And the United States felt for a long time that they were superior to other ones. So survival of the fittest. As long as we have the strongest army in the world, no one can do us anything. And then you come across something like very undiscriminating, if you believe in that. There are people who still don't believe in that. Undiscriminating, like COVID-19. They don't care. A virus don't care. Non-discriminating. Not no survival of the fittest. Everyone, some people who are super fit, they still died. Okay, it hit the old elderly people and not the young people, but the sick people a little bit more. So there are some couple of things in there that at least make you wonder. It made me wonder, like maybe we are not on the right track with all this survival of the fittest. And I started to ask this question when I was working in corporate organization. People didn't start to like me. I didn't start to like the corporate organization, although I work for a very nice company. I work for EdTech TI, and we are all about improving mathematic educations. I had a lot of fun working there. I went to school all across the globe. I went to schools in India. I've been to schools in Africa. I've been literally all across the globe and visit all kind of schools and see what we could do with our technology to bring the level of mathematics to a different level. It was a really good job. But there was another side of it. We had a competitor, and the competitor was called Casio. And we hated when they took a little bit market share of us away. Then we would think about, should we change our price? Should we be more aggressive in our marketing? In the end of the day, I was responsible for marketing and sales at some point in time in my career for a few years in Europe. Yeah, for most of the part of Europe, I was responsible for that. And it was my goal actually to push competition out as far as I could. I didn't care whether there were maybe people, fired or, laid off because of that. So in the end of the day, if we would win, and if we would get more market share, and the other one would completely lose and would be put off the market, a salesperson would lose his job over it. I never gave it a lot of thought. And when I started to give it a lot of thought, people just said to me, but that's just what it is. They would do the same thing to us as we would do to them. And I started to develop kind of different thoughts about it. Is that the only way to do it? Now, some people have tried to crack that, and this is where a lot of specifically my fellow U.S. citizens get a little bit nervous. Some people like Karl Marx, they tried to solve that problem, right? And he came up with communism. Didn't work, but the initial thought of it was maybe not so bad. The people who executed it, not so good. And if you think about all these things, it's always about the execution of the people, because in the way people applied communism to the world, it was still survival of the fittest, right? The people who were a member of the party had more power of the people who were not a member of the party, and therefore they had something to say over the other people. It was still survival of the fittest. I am for 100% sure if I could wake up Karl Marx and he would look at countries who said they would follow his theory and philosophies, he said they don't. They just applied it and fell in the trap of the survival of the fittest. The fascists, at least they were a little bit more honest. Yeah, at least the Nazis in Germany. Sorry, in Germany, I know that's a long time ago. It's just an example in history. I try never to make jokes about something as serious as this, but somewhere came in the belief that the white race was more superior, more fit than other races. You know, of course, a big nonsense, but I also explained that was not only in Germany, that was very deep rooted also, I'm sorry, my friend Matthew, in England and the United States. Very deeply rooted in a lot of society. We believe that white people were just more, fit and just more strong than people with a different race. That's why the Netherlands took about, I don't know, that super big piece in Asia, and we dominated them. England did the same thing, and it was even accepted by the other races. They even started to believe that that was true too, right? So it's so deep ingrained in our society that 1 hour talking in the place would not change that. But it could change the 4, 5 people that are listening to it. And maybe there are a few more on Facebook Live. So my challenge to you today is to think about it. Think about survival of the fittest. Is that something we should actually hold on to? Or, as I said, and I stole that a little bit from a guy named Corning. He's a psychologist, PhD psychologist. Is it maybe time to consign that theory to the Museum of Antiquated Ideologies? And there are a lot of ideologies that we in the past sent away. What do you think about, believing in everything, all these different gods? We think like, that's kind of a weird thing to do now, right? To have all kind of statues and we adore them and stuff like that. So we don't do these things either. Um, you know, Nazism, we also think that's old. People still believe in it, but there's very few people, and they're kind of idiots. I can dare to say that. Communism, as we know, we start to think that's kind of antiquated. You cannot do that anymore. That's not working. So it's not so weird to send some ideologies that looked at the time that they came to bear, looked at something really good. But we evolve as human beings, and maybe we need to dare to question these things and the impact that we have on the next generation to only think about, you need to be better. And let me give you an example that I might talk about on the 10th. Oh, no, actually, I will talk on the 11th of July in a talk that I will do to hopefully a lot of dancers around the world. I hope you guys have seen that we have a nice knowledge summit coming up in 2 weeks' time. I've been invited to talk there. And one of the things I might talk about is that if you believe that there is something like an absolute good, like in dancing, right? We believe there's an absolute good way to do a spin turn or a natural turn or reverse turn or a feather step. You will always be miserable when you practice. You will always feel that you're a loser because you're always on the short end of the stick. There are way more ways to look at that movement than only good and bad. And teachers along the line, specifically the technical teachers, they have always believed that there is only one way, and that would be the correct way. And that is, of course, absolutely wrong. Most of my colleagues who at least are teaching the way how I believe in, they don't see it that way anymore. Hans will always, even if they have the same skill set as Matthew, exactly the same skill set, exactly the same training hours, will always dance the feather step different from each other. And that's a good thing. That is what makes dancing so interesting. So what they try to do in some dance organization is dancing everything so precise that they are looking for that absolute theory. I start to like more and more that you just ask a bunch of guys and girls, 7, 11, whatever that number is, and at that day of the competition, it's their opinion who was the better dancer. That's all. And if that championship happened to be the world championship, great. Then you are the world champion. The next competition, 11 other people decide who is the best. And that's okay too. Does that make sense? Is that not a much nicer way of looking at it than per se trying to, oh, he made 3 turns and he made 5 turns and stuff like that. And it becomes all very tricky and boring and stuff like that. There is no room anymore for our personality in it. Again, if you apply what I just said to many layers in our society, you will be shocked. Yeah, I said you will be shocked how we all fall in that trap of survival of the fittest. It could be the survival of the cheapest. It could be the survival of the best quality. It could be the survival of the prettiest. It could be the survival of the smartest, which seems that we are in right now. What if you have a kid that's a little bit less smart than other people? What then? If you're a parent like I am, you know what I'm talking about. I have 2 kids. We raised them the same way. They're adorable kids. I love them to pieces. I don't love one more than the other. I can't even if I want to. Yeah, sometimes I get a little bit more angry at one and the other. Why that is, I don't know. I think one is just a little bit smarter in how to play the dad, wind them around the finger. That's just a little bit what it is. But at the end of the day, I love them both to pieces, right? School results, completely different. One, goes through school like it's nothing, goes to the university next year, super proud of it. The other one struggles. Every day is a struggle because he needs to be measured up against, who is the best. And it's a struggle. And it's not a bad kid at all. But if we let that kid follow exactly the rules that society put on us, this kid will be already a failure. And it cannot be. So yes, I'm personally invested for a couple of reasons. I'm getting old, so I'm coming to that part where I get purged because I'm old. But I've also a kid that just doesn't learn the way other kids do, and it's not less. It doesn't have to be treated special or some way. He just wants to be looked at the way he needs to be looked at, right? It's not a conformist. Neither is the other one. She can learn just a little bit better than the other ones, right? So that's just not what it is. Everyone who is a parent knows what I'm talking about. And if you live in a society like a lot of Asian societies, specifically China, where there's a race for kids, do you know that they already, before they go to primary school, so it's just pre-primary school, we call it preschool, right? They already have to turn in some sort of, I cannot call it a thesis, but the kids already have to make some sort of a thesis to prove that they are better than other kids. That's horrible. Horrible. Call it tiger moms who do that. We do that. We give them extra tutoring, and if we can, we smack in some piano lessons too, because we think that's better for people, and some classical ballet things as well. It's horrible. I am definitely not a proponent of let a kid do whatever it wants to do. But I also know that survival of the fittest, if you only measure it on those things, are you pretty enough? Are you smart enough? A very limited view of that thing. let's find the talents of that people have. I believe, God created us with all a unique talent. And it's our job as parents and as other people to find that talents. And whether it's in my dance student or whether that's in my kids, it doesn't really matter, or whether it's my people who follow me on the place, it is my responsibility to find your gifts. It is your responsibility, right, to bring that gift to the world once you found it, right? But it is definitely not my role to put a round peg, in a square hole because it won't fit. I don't know, maybe that's a too American expression, but that's what we try to do. Society nowadays wants to have all square holes, and then if you're round peg, you're screwed. Well, actually, no pun intended, you're not screwed. And you I have to be Dutch to understand that joke, but that's that's okay. And then society changes. Maybe society want to have, I don't know, a triangle girl or a hectogram type of pack, and then you're screwed again. It doesn't work like that. It's just not correct. It's just, think about it for a moment. Survival of the fittest. It started with Darwin. Excuse me, Mr. Darwin. You made a lot of good points in, specifically if you think about how you thought about society. Um, but you also helped us, thinking in a completely wrong direction. And it doesn't work that way. The earth will not survive if we only think about survival of the fittest. It works in animal kingdom, but I'm getting a little bit tired of making our compare ourselves with animals, because we're not. We have a better set of brains, and if we default to the survival of the fittest, we actually behave exactly what we don't want to be, and that is, being like animals. you know we don't have to be like animals. Let's enjoy nature as it is given to us. you know I know some people are not believers in God, and that's good too. But when God said he gave us dominion over it, he didn't mean that we can do with the earth whatever we want. We can learn from it, we can enjoy it, but we are not the same as an animal. We are not, because otherwise you could not do something like the place. We have to force ourselves to, think differently and to become fit, for personal health reasons, just because it's fun and you want to be this fastest cyclist. You want to lose 15 pounds and do that faster than anyone else. And you share that knowledge with how you did it. More kudos to you. Go do that, right? If you find a dance movement and you teach it to someone else, because more kudos to do that. We start this whole thing on the 10th and 11th July with a dear friend. I can say now, Lasse Odegaard, one of the ballroom champions of the past, because we truly believe that we as teachers with a little bit more maturity should start to share our knowledge for free, completely for free. Why? Because if I create my own island, I become special. And then can hold something over you. My way of teaching, you always have to come to me, because if you like it or not. But the things that I found, I built my career on shoulders of other people. People who said that they built their own career all by themselves are big fat liars. You always stand on someone else's shoulder. Does that make sense? Always. There's no one who came to this world on its own, right? Because first of all, you were conceived by your mom and dad. Maybe you don't like them, but you were conceived by them, right? You always have built your life on shoulders of other people. And let's build strong shoulders so that other people can build their life on our shoulders too. Yeah, that's better than be concerned who you can put down on you. Let's think about who we can put on top of ourselves. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, that was it. I think I need to become a pastor or something instead of a coach. feel I feel lately a pastor. Yesterday I had a lesson from Rich, and he said the same thing. I'm not saying it because he said it, but I kind of recognize the feeling that I sometimes believe I'm becoming a pastor instead of a life coach. Anyhow, it was a very serious topic for me, and I hope it's a serious topic for you too. So think about it. Send me some messages. Maybe there are some messages on Facebook Live. Maybe Irene wants to look at that. If not, then there are a couple of things that I want to say to you. Next week, we're of course back at 12 o'clock. with the place. If the weather is really horrible in the Netherlands, Hans and Belinda will join us again. If the weather is nice, they prefer to be somewhere else instead of getting really good information that can improve their lives. But everyone has his own choice. you know it's just what it is. So maybe I need to keep it an hour later, who knows. And then don't forget, it's just a little commercial of work that we do. The 10th and 11th, there will be an awesome conference of a lot of teachers that we have built our success upon, and I'm so honored to be part of that, to help organize it, and also to be a speaker of that. I'm a little bit nervous for it too, to be honest, but I'm sure it will be okay. So hope to see you in one of those events, you people on Facebook Live. And if you want to join us on Zoom, as always, send us a personal message and you will be part of this group too. We normally talk a little bit longer. So you want to hear what we say then you can do that too. If not, then I'll see you next week with another topic. Bye-bye. Just closing it for you. Facebook Live people. Stop live stream. And I also